Hello, my name is Eric Yaxheimer, and I would like to discuss with you the web program at the Harrisburg Area Community College. And in the web program, I'm privileged to be a professor and teach software development courses for the college and the web program itself. And the web program is what we call a career program, which means students that graduate from the web program will be able or have the skills to enter the web industry in one of several capacities. And to understand those capacities for entering the web industry, it's probably best to look to see how the web program is actually organized. And the organization of the web program is actually in the tracks or the paths through the program that students can take to graduate the web program. And the first track that I'll mention is the design track. And the design track is geared for the artistic student, or those students with a lot of artistic skills that like to work with images and music and video and so forth. The design track teaches you how to work with different media types using primarily the Adobe suite, and in fact, focuses on website and web page presentation to ensure a rich user experience. And for those students, I invite you to take a look at Professor Carl Petersheim's presentation, where he will discuss the web program's design side in much more detail. Now, my side of the program, or the side that I'm mostly responsible for, is the development side of the program. And that side of the program, or that track through the program, is for the scientific or the logically oriented student, those students that like to write software and are very mathematically oriented. That is the developer's track. And in that track, we will be creating web applications and software for website delivery. And that includes mobile applications to a point. And I'll be discussing that side of that track in this particular presentation. The other track through the program, which by the way is our most popular track, is the design developer track. And that is for those students that have artistic skills and logic and math skills that want to flex all those skills and utilize all those skills in the web industry. And that is the design developer track. And again, mentioning that is our most popular path through the program. Now, the developer track is, again, for developing software. And to start out the web program, you take our introductory web courses, and all students take these. So this is more design and developer than just development. And the first courses that students will take are really Web 101 and 102, which are really survey courses. Web 101 is designed to, in fact, teach you skills or present skills that you'll be learning in the rest of the program for developing web applications and media types and so forth. And it's really about 15 or 16 projects that you'll work on for developing different titles and different media types and so forth for the web. And it's essentially, here's what the rest of the program looks like. Now, the Web 102 course, which is again another survey course, really focuses on web technologies and skills and things you'll be doing over the web and how to utilize the web and so forth. So it's actually very popular with web students and students from other programs as well. But it's designed to teach you skills for utilizing the web effectively. And again, since I'm focusing more on developers, I'm presenting things like Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code as tools and project types that you'll be working with as you progress through the program. And again, I'll talk more about these in this presentation. Now, after you get through the first couple of survey courses, then you start to work with website development. And that's the next couple of courses, Web 110 and 125. Web 110 really teaches you how to use HTML editors for the development of websites and starting to develop web applications, but not quite there, just pretty much focusing on websites. And for those of you in the know, you know that a website really has three component parts. CSS, cascading style sheets for styling and creating effective presentation, which you will learn more about as the program continues, and HTML for web page presentation and content, and JavaScript, which adds behavior and starts to develop the software for web applications. So in Web 110, you start to develop websites touching on each of these components, and not so much JavaScript, but CSS and HTML. And in Web 110, you really learn to use the tools such as Dreamweaver and Expression Web. And I sort of have slides to represent those here because those are what you're going to be using. And you'll be creating websites and so forth. And in Web 125, you really get into the intricacies of HTML and CSS. And hopefully, at least touching on a little bit of JavaScript. Not necessarily getting into it, but just presenting it a little bit that it exists. Now, when you go through Web 110 and 125, we also start to talk about server-side software and utilizing tools such as LAMP, which stands for Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP, which you'll be utilizing throughout the rest of the program. And LAMP is actually server-side software. So when you download and install LAMP, you're turning your laptop or home computer into a full-fledged web server that can be used to serve content over the web. And one of the things that I'll mention about LAMP for the developers is the PHP and MySQL part of it. And specifically the MySQL, where we'll be working with databases, because as you proceed through the development side of the program, we will be hitting databases extensively in that part of the program. But getting back to Web 110 and 125, we also start to look at content management systems such as Joomla and WordPress. And specifically WordPress, because at the time of the recording of this presentation, WordPress is used to present about a third of the websites on the internet. So we definitely want to present WordPress as a skill that you will pick up throughout the program. And of course, things like Joomla, and in the program and in the introductory courses, you will be starting to touch on WordPress and content management systems. So you will get used to those later on. Now, as you get through those introductory courses, Web 110 and 125, that's where the students start to break off. And the design students do their thing, and the development students, we do our thing. And of course, the medium of the road students, they're in everything. And that's where we start to get into the development. And that's where I'm going to start to really present my side of the web program. And one of the courses we have for Introduction to Programming is a Python course. And as many of you probably know, Python is a very popular language right now for data presentation and deep mining artificial intelligence, and web applications. And we have an introduction to programming course because in a web program, when you enter it, we assume the student knows nothing. So when we start to teach development, we start from the ground up and we deal with very basic programming and logic skills for the introduction and development of web applications. And our Python course is one of those courses we use to teach introduction to programming. And throughout the web program, and as some of you may know, you cannot develop web applications without the utilization of frameworks. And the fact that HACC and the web program teach the student to utilize and to develop web applications using frameworks is one of the areas where I think HACC is really separated from the competition in the fact that we keep our program current. So you will be developing full-fledged web applications by the time you get through the program, exactly as you would in industry, using contemporary skills and contemporary software. And on the development side, I'll tell you, our courses are not 20 years old. We teach you current, up-to-date skills, and we're very proud of that fact, that you will be entering the web industry with contemporary skills. And one of those skills that hopefully you'll pick up is Django, which is a framework for developing web applications in the Python environment. And of course, when you develop web applications, you can intermix web applications with data presentation and possibly AI and so forth. So it's pretty interesting. But at any rate, we start to teach introduction to programming with Python, and we also utilize C#. And again, we start out very basic in these introduction to programming courses and teach you from the ground up, assuming that you know nothing. And if you are more advanced, then that's certainly a plus coming in. But again, we assume you know nothing so that students entering the program can feel comfortable in the fact that they'll pick up all necessary skills. And we start to teach you very basic applications and very basic logic skills to get you writing software. And again, utilizing either Python or C#. And after we teach you the introductory skills, we start to work on visual projects, which are a lot more interesting in my opinion. And they're designed to help you develop a portfolio, because to enter the web industry, not only will you need a resume and brands and various other skills, but you also need a portfolio where you can present to the employer things that you've developed, or I should say to potential employers. This is what I developed. These are the skills I picked up at the web program at HACC while I was there. And one of those things that you'll be developing in your portfolio is a four-function calculator to teach you screen skills, or whether you have, in this case, a various desktop application with a screen or a web application with a web page, either or. And you can say to or prospective employers, look, here's what I've done. Here's what I know how to do. So we do things like the four-function calculator and developing editors in those introductory courses to give you interesting items and items that you can be proud to present in your portfolios as you go to look for that first job. Now, in those introductory courses and throughout the web program, we're going to be working with databases. And databases, how to work with relational databases and document databases, very popular in industry right now. And we, in fact, will hit databases very heavily throughout the program, beginning in the introduction to software development courses. And we'll be working with, again, relational databases and document databases quite a bit. So that is one thing I do want to point out. Again, you'll learn these contemporary skills using database management systems. Another, a little bit more advanced introduction to programming course is our JavaScript course. And in JavaScript, not only will you learn, again, basic JavaScript, starting from the ground up and working with the syntax and so forth, but you'll be learning JavaScript in different flavors, because just as a web application is divided into two broad components, the client side and the server side. The client side, of course, JavaScript will be working with the browser, and the server side, and you'll be working with Node.js, which is a runtime environment and utilizes JavaScript as its primary and really only language. So when you will be developing web applications for HACC or as a student in a web program, you will in fact be utilizing Node.js right up front. You won't just be learning basic JavaScript and syntax. You'll be learning contemporary skills, and we hit Node.js right out of the gate. And again, a skill that will get you a job. Another thing from these introductory courses throughout the rest of the program is we utilize frameworks. And frameworks are tools and libraries, utilities, and so forth. They're all of the above, which again are runtime environments. And you will utilize contemporary frameworks for developing web applications. And it should be noted that nobody develops websites and web applications from scratch. That's just not done anymore. And you're going to be utilizing frameworks such as React and AngularJS and Vue.js. And in fact, you will be utilizing these frameworks right out of the gate to develop web applications. And once you get through the JavaScript course, we have an intermediate course that we actually call Advanced Development. But we have a sort of intermediate course which leads to our Advanced Development courses. And in that course, we look at other frameworks besides Node.js and Angular and Vue. We look at a little bit of PHP as well, because in our intermediate development course, we in fact really look at object-oriented programming and scrutinize it so that you can effectively utilize all these different frameworks, because they're all extremely similar. And we give you the object-oriented skills, and then we enhance your skills using Node and React and so forth, Angular, and in fact move on to the PHP frameworks to make the student as well-rounded as possible to, again, start the student on the path to, in fact, be able to utilize various frameworks in industry, because it's always assumed you will not be doing the same thing for very long in industry. You will be moving around quite a bit. So once you get through what we call our Advanced Development course, you will be working with frameworks and truly developing web applications. Now, after you get through our Advanced Development course, you could take a number of different elective courses. And one of the elective courses that we have that we're kind of proud of is our Introduction to Java course. And in that course, I tend to use Android as a platform to not only teach you Java, but to teach you Android development. And in the future, and I hope the near future, we'll be teaching mobile development for iPhone and iPad, utilizing Swift and the Apple tools such as Xcode for developing such applications. So for those students that favor Apple technologies, trust me, they are supported at HACC, and we very much welcome you. In fact, HACC is indeed an Apple affiliate, so we utilize both Windows and Macintosh skills throughout the program. And Android is one of the courses that is currently on the books now, and we will be teaching Android or Apple technologies in the near future. But with that, once you get through the advanced development courses, you start to look at your web electives. And one of the electives that we have is our advanced Windows development course, where we look at ASP.NET and .NET Core and the Microsoft technologies for developing industry standard web applications. And industry standard web applications utilize .NET and .NET Core as their framework of choice. And again, it is a framework, and it is a framework that is highly marketable. So at the time of the recording of this video, you can look for prospective jobs using .NET and .NET Core and see for yourself. But we have that program, or we have that in the program at HACC, and we will teach you to utilize and develop web applications utilizing .NET. And again, in that course, we develop industry standard applications, store applications, and so on, that you can market in your portfolio. Another technology we focus on is our PHP technology, and PHP is still a reasonably popular web development environment. And in the PHP course, we'll teach you to utilize the PHP frameworks, which in my opinion are very advanced and probably the easiest ones to understand. And you will be using two popular frameworks, Laravel and Cake PHP, for the development of web applications. Now I want the student or prospective student to pay particular attention to this slide, because notice how I have a CRUD example here. And CRUD is actually an acronym for Create, Read, Update, and Delete. And those are the four operations you can do with data. And this particular application, which we look at and learn to develop in our PHP course, performs those four operations using databases on the web, as does the ASP.NET Core course. You will utilize SQL Server and develop CRUD applications accordingly. So we will be using Laravel and Cake PHP, as well as teaching PHP syntax in our PHP course. And again, I have a slide here for Cake, and essentially we use the most advanced versions. We are not operating on versions behind. And we can see that we have a Cake application here as well. So we utilize these frameworks and the various tools, and Composer, which I have a slide for here, is one of those tools that we use for the creation and development of web applications. And again, for those of you familiar with Composer, it in fact is utilized for the instantaneous creation of web applications. And you'll learn about Composer and various other tools like Composer throughout the program. And again, these are industry standard tools that you will need to know how to utilize and work with in the industry. And we teach you contemporary versions and contemporary skills, not older versions and older skills, which are kind of useless when looking for web employment. But at any rate, we use Composer and the various tools and scaffolding stuff and so forth in the program as well. So with that, I'm going to end my presentation now, but I invite you to contact myself or Professor Edward Van Blargen or Professor Carl Petersheim with any questions you might have about the web program, and we will be very happy to discuss this with you further. So I invite you to contact us and look at other presentations from HACC, and I hope to see you there in the near future, and I wish you all the success. Thank you very much for your patronage. Take care.